Hi friends, I'm Dr. Manjari from Tecnia Institute of Advanced Studies, and I am going to talk about business environment. Business environment, although, is a huge topic, but today we are going to talk about environmental analysis, which is an important topic of business environment. So let's start with the learning objectives. To understand environmental analysis, we should know the basic nature of business environment. Also, the concept of environmental scanning, the major components of macro environment, the concept of globalization, very important to know the main elements of the micro environment, the nature of competitive environment. According to Kenichi Ohom, analysis is the critical starting point of strategic thinking. Knith Andrews says that awareness of the environment is not a special project to be undertaken only when warning of change becomes a deafening. According to Clifton Gravin, positive trends in the environment breed compliancy that underscores a basic point in change. There is both opportunities and challenge. Environment refers to the external and internal forces which affect the functioning of a business. According to Barry M. Richmond and Melin Copen, environment factors or constraints are largely, if not totally, external and beyond the control of individual industrial enterprises and their managements. These are essentially the givens within which firms and their managements must operate in a specific country, and they vary often greatly from country to country. A strategist looks at the environment as posing threats to a firm or offering immense opportunities for exploitation. In trying to understand the environment, managers faces difficult problems. First, the environment accumulates many different influences. The difficulty lies in making sense of this diversity in a way that can contribute to strategic decision making. Listing all conceivable environmental influences may be possible, but it may not be much use because no overall picture emerges of really important influences on the organization. The second difficulty is that of uncertainty. Managers typically claim that the pace of technological change and the speed of global communications mean a greater and faster change now than ever before. Whether or not change is in fact faster now than it was previously, and whether or not the change or move unpredictable, it remains that while it is important to try to understand future external influences on organization, it is very difficult to do so. Third, it must be realized that managers are no different from other individuals in the way they cope with complexity. They tend to simplify complexities by focusing on aspects of the environment which have been historically important or confirm prior views. This does not preserve managerial behavior. It is the natural behavior of everyone faced with complex issues. Arguably, one of the tasks of strategic manager is to find ways in which he or she and their colleagues can break out of oversimplification or bias in the understanding of their environment while still achieving a useful and usable level of analysis. Here we will try to provide framework for understanding the environment of organizations with the aim of trying to identify key issues, finding ways of coping with complexity and also challenging managerial with thinking. It is useful to take an initial view of the nature of the organization's environment in terms of how uncertain it is. Is it relatively static, or does it show signs of change? And in what way? It is simple or complex to comprehend. This helps in deciding the focus on the rest of the analysis. The next step might be the auditing of environmental influences. Here, the aim is to identify which of the many different macro environmental influences are likely to affect the organization's development or performance. This is done by considering the way in which political, economic, social and technological influences impending on organizations. It is increasingly useful to relate such influences to growing trends towards globalization of industries. It may also be helpful to construct possible future pictures of seniors to consider the extent to which strategies might need to change. The final step is to shift the focus from towards an explicit consideration of the immediate environment of the organization. For example, the competitive arena in which the organization operates. 5 forces analysis aims to identify the key forces at work in the immediate or competitive environment and why they are significant. From these steps should emerge a view of the really important developments taking place around the organization. It may be that there are relatively few of outstanding significance, or it could be that there are many interconnected developments. What matters is that there should be an attempt to understand why they are of strategic significance. It is also required to analyze the organization's competitive position. That is how it stands in relation to other organizations competing for the same resources or customers. Why environmental analysis is an important question. Strategic management is considered to consist of 3 elements. 1. Strategic analysis. 2. Strategic choice. And 3. Strategic implementation. Strategic analysis is concerned with understanding the relationship between the force of change and their impact on the choice of strategies by the organization. Bountiful opportunities or major constraints for organizational operations come from the internal and external environment of the organization. The environmental influences are the most important factors in determining the strategies of an organization. Environmental analysis has 3 basic goals. First, the analysis should provide an understanding of current and potential changes taking place in the environment. At the same time, one must also have a long-term perspective. Second, environmental analysis should provide inputs for strategic decision making. Mere collection of data is not enough. The information collected must be used in decision making. Third, environment analysis should facilitate and foster strategic thinking in organizations, typically a rich source of ideas and understanding of the context within which a firm operates. It should challenge the current wisdom by bringing fresh viewpoints into the organization. To be specific, the benefits of an environmental studies are as follows: development of broad strategies and long-term policies of the firm, development of action plans to deal with technological advancements, to foresee the impact of social economic changes at the national and the international levels of the firm's stability, analysis of competitors, strategies, and formulation of effective countermeasures to keep oneself dynamic. From a negative perspective, it can be said that when the company ceases to adjust its strategies to the environment or does not react to the demands of the environment by changing its strategy, the result is decreased achievement of corporate objectives. From an environmental analysis, strategic are able to anticipate opportunities and plan their responses to these opportunities. It also helps strategists to develop an early warning system to prevent threats or to develop strategies which can become a threat to the firm's advantage. It is clear that because of the difficulty in assessing the future, not all future events can be anticipated, but some can and are. To the extent that most are anticipated by this analysis and diagnosis, managerial decisions are likely to be better, and in addition to the process reduces the time pressure on those few difficulties which are not anticipated. Positive traits in the environment breed compliancy that underscores a basic point in change. There is both opportunity and challenge, said by Clifton Garvin. Now we will discuss about characteristics of a business environment. A business environment exhibits many characteristics. Some of the important and obvious characteristics are briefly discussed. The environment is complex. The environment consists of a number of factors, events, conditions, and influences arising from different sources. All these do not exist in isolation but depend on each other to create entirely new sets of influences. It is difficult to immediately comprehend which factors constitute a given environment. As environment is a complex phenomena, relatively easier to understand in parts, but difficult to grasp in totality. Second, the environment is dynamic. The environment is constantly changing in nature due to the many and varied influences operating. There is dynamism in the environment causing into continuously changes its shape and character. Third, the environment is multi-phased. The shape and the character an environment assumes depend on the perception of the observer. A particular change in the environment or a new development may be viewed differently by different observers. This is frequently seen when the same development is welcomed as an opportunity by one company while another company previews it as a threat. The third point is the environment has a far-reaching impact. The environment has a far-reaching impact on organizations. The growth and profitability of an organization has a critical dependency on the environment in which it exists. Any change in the environment impacts an organization in several different ways. Since the environment is complex, dynamic, multifaceted, it has a far-reaching impact. Dividing it into external and internal components enable us to understand it better. Components of a business environment. The environment in which an organization exists can be broadly divided into two parts: the external and the internal environment. Here we deal with the appraisal of the external environment. We start by gaining an understanding of the concept of environment. This is done through a description of four important characteristics of the environment, dividing the environment into its external and internal parts, observing how a systematic approach like Swot analysis can be help in environmental analysis, appraisal, and classifying the external environment into two parts, the general and the relevant environment. Next, we see how the external environment can be divided into different components. For the purpose of understanding and analysis, we have discussed 7 components of the external environment: the social, political, economic, regulatory, market, supplier, and technological components of the external environment. The external environment includes all the factors outside the organization which provide opportunities or pose threats to the organization. The internal environment refers to the factors which an organization impart strengths or cause weaknesses of a strategic nature. The environment in which an organization exists can therefore be described in terms of the opportunities and threats operating in the external environment. Apart from the strengths and weaknesses exist in the internal environment, the 4 environmental influences can be described as under. First, an opportunity is a favorable condition in the organization's environment which enables it to consolidate and strengthen its position. An example of an opportunity is the growing demand of the product or services that a company provides. Second, a threat is an unfavorable condition in the organization's environment which creates a risk for or causes damages to the organization. An example of a threat is the emergence of a strong new competitors who are likely to offer stiff competition to the existing company in an industry. Third, the strength is an inherent capacity which an organization can use to gain strategic advantages over its competitors. An example of strength is superior research and development skills which can be used for developing new products so that the company gains a competitive advantage. Fourth is a weakness is an inherent limitation or constraint which create a strategic disadvantage. An example of weakness is over-dependency on a single product line, which is potentially risky or a company in times of crisis. An understanding of the external environment in terms of the opportunities and threats and the internal environment in terms of the strength and weaknesses is crucial for the existence, growth and profitability of an organization. A systematic approach to understanding the environment is the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, which is also known as SWOT analysis. Business firms undertake a SWOT analysis to understand the external and internal environment. Through such an analysis, the strengths and the weaknesses existing within an organization can be matched with the opportunities and threats operating in the environment so that an effective strategy can be formulated. An effective organizational strategy, therefore, is one of that capabilities of the opportunities through the use of strengths and neutralize the threats by minimizing the impact of weaknesses. The process of strategy formulation starts with the and critically depends on the appraisal of the external and internal environment of an organization. Environmental scanning. Environmental scanning, also known as environmental monitoring, in the process of gathering information regarding a company's environment, analyzing it, and forecasting the impact of all predictable environmental changes. Successful marketing depends largely on how a company can synchronize its marketing programs with its environmental changes. The major components of environmental scanning are external environmental analysis, customer analysis, competitor analysis, market analysis, and last, company analysis. Macro environmental analysis says demographic environment. Factors relating to population such as size, growth, rate, age, distribution, religious composition and literacy levels, and aspects like composition of workforce, household patterns, regional characteristics, population shifts, etc. need to be studied as they are all part of the demographic environment. The points to be considered here are: which demographic trends will affect the market size of the industry? Second, which demographic trends represent opportunities or threats? The demographic segment is concerned with the population size, age structure, demographic distribution, ethnic makeup, and distribution of income. While each of the major elements of this segment are discussed, the challenges for strategists is to determine what the changes that have been identified in the demographic characteristics or elements of a population imply for the future strategic competitiveness of the company. Population size. While population size itself, large or small, may be important, or companies that require a crucial mass of potential customers, changes in the specific makeup of a population size may have even more crucial implications. Among the most important changes in a population size are changes in a nation's birth rate and or a family size, increase or decline in the total population, effects of rapid population growth or natural resources or food supplies. Age structure, changes in a nation's birth rate or life expectancy can have important implications for companies. Are people living long? What is the life competency of the infants? There will be implications for the healthcare system and for the development of products and services targeted at an older population. Geographic distribution. Population shifts from one region or of a nation to another or from another metropolitan to non-metropolitan areas may have an impact on a company's strategic competitiveness. Issues that should be considered include the attractiveness of a company's location may be influenced by governmental support. Companies may have to consider relocation if population shifts have a significant impact on the availability of a qualified workforce. The trends towards working at home and commuting electrically on the information highway may imply changes in restructuring and managing the workforce. Income distribution. Changes in income distribution are important because changes in the level of individual and groups purchasing power and discretionary income often result in changes in spending and saving patterns. Tracking, forecasting and assessing changes in income patterns may identify new opportunities for companies.